Imagine a world shrouded in fear, a world where the unknown looms large and the horizon is filled with dread. The year is 793 AD, a time when the world was a patchwork of kingdoms and empires, each with its own struggles and triumphs. Across the North Sea, a storm brews, not of wind and rain, but of dragon-headed ships. These ships, sleek and menacing, cut through the waves with a purpose. These are the Vikings, fierce warriors from Scandinavia, hungry for gold and glory. Their eyes burn with the fire of conquest, and their hearts beat with the rhythm of battle. Their arrival on the coast of England signaled the start of a brutal, transformative era, an era where the clash of swords and the cries of the vanquished would echo through the ages. Monasteries, once havens of peace, became the Vikings' first targets. These sanctuaries, filled with treasures and unarmed monks, were easy prey for the marauding Norsemen. Lindisfarne, a sacred island, fell in a storm of swords and fire. The holy site, once a beacon of faith, was reduced to smoldering ruins, its treasures plundered, and its monks slaughtered. This was just the beginning. The Vikings' raids would continue, each one more daring and devastating than the last. The Vikings were not simply barbarians, they were a complex society with their own customs, beliefs, and way of life. Their raids were not just acts of violence, but also expressions of their culture and ambition. They were skilled sailors, navigators, and warriors. Their knowledge of the seas was unparalleled, and their ability to navigate treacherous waters made them formidable opponents. Their longships, fast and maneuverable, allowed them to strike swiftly and vanish back into the sea. These vessels were marvels of engineering, capable of traversing both open oceans and shallow rivers. England, wealthy but unprepared for such an onslaught, was caught completely off guard. The suddenness and ferocity of the Viking attacks left the English reeling, their defenses shattered. The news of the Viking raids spread like wildfire, carrying the whispers of their brutality and the clang of their axes. Tales of their fearsome exploits reached far and wide, instilling fear in the hearts of those who heard them. The Vikings had arrived, and the world would never be the same again. The initial Viking raids were swift and brutal. These were not mere skirmishes, but calculated assaults designed to instill fear and chaos. Picture this: a peaceful monastery, the air thick with incense and the sound of chanting. Monks devoted to their prayers, completely unaware of the impending doom. Suddenly, the silence is shattered by the harsh blare of a horn. The tranquility is replaced by a sense of dread as the monks realize their sanctuary is under attack. Vikings, eyes blazing with fury, swarm ashore, their axes gleaming under the pale sun. These warriors, hardened by the harsh conditions of their homeland, are relentless and unstoppable. Monks are slaughtered, treasures plundered, and buildings set ablaze. The once serene monastery is now a scene of chaos and destruction. The Vikings, driven by a thirst for wealth and a belief in their gods, showed no mercy. Their raids were not just about plunder, but also about asserting dominance and spreading fear. Coastal villages, undefended and vulnerable, became easy prey. The villagers, unprepared for such ferocity, could do little to defend themselves. The Vikings, with their superior fighting skills and ruthless efficiency, spread terror throughout the land. Their tactics were unmatched, and their brutality was legendary. They struck, plundered, and vanished before any organized resistance could be mounted. Their longships, swift and agile, allowed them to appear and disappear like phantoms. England, fragmented into several kingdoms, lacked the unity and military might to repel these fierce invaders. The disorganized defenders were no match for the well-coordinated Viking assaults. As the Vikings sailed away, the villagers were left to mourn their losses and rebuild their shattered lives. The scars of these raids would linger for generations. Meanwhile, the Vikings celebrated their victories, feasting and drinking, their ships laden with treasures and captives. Each successful raid only fueled their ambition for more. Back in their homeland, the Vikings trained relentlessly, honing their combat skills and preparing for the next raid. Their society was built on a warrior ethos, and every man was expected to be ready for battle. Viking chieftains, ever ambitious, planned their next moves with meticulous care. They studied maps, discussed strategies, and chose their targets with precision. The impact of these raids on medieval England was profound. Villages were abandoned, fortifications were built, and the constant threat of Viking attacks shaped the lives of the people. The sight of Viking longships on the horizon became a symbol of impending doom. For the people of England, the Viking threat was ever present, a dark cloud on the horizon. In response, villagers began to prepare defenses, building walls and training with weapons. The Viking raids forced them to adapt and become more resilient. The Vikings, however, remained a formidable force. Their combat prowess was unmatched, and their raids continued to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. Standing victorious, a Viking warrior looks out over a conquered village, a testament to their dominance and the terror they spread across the land. Among the Viking warlords, one name rose to legendary status: Ragnar Lothbrok. A cunning strategist and a fearless warrior, Ragnar's exploits became the stuff of sagas. He understood the English better than most, their weaknesses, their divisions. He exploited these ruthlessly, playing one ruler against another, sowing discord to further his own ambitions. Ragnar's raids were not merely about plunder. He sought to conquer, to carve out his own kingdom from English soil. His ambition knew no bounds. He gathered a loyal following of warriors, drawn to his charisma and the promise of riches. His name became a rallying cry, striking fear into the hearts of his enemies and emboldening his followers. Ragnar's raids grew bolder, striking deeper into English territory. He targeted not just monasteries and villages, but also wealthy towns and even royal strongholds. He employed cunning tactics, using surprise attacks, feints, and ambushes to outmaneuver his opponents. His most audacious move was his attack on Paris. Sailing up the Seine River with a fleet of longships, Ragnar laid siege to the city, holding it hostage for a massive ransom. This daring raid shocked the Frankish court and cemented Ragnar's reputation as the most formidable Viking leader of his time. Section 5. The Hammer and the Anvil, England's defense. England, initially caught off guard by the ferocity and frequency of Viking raids, began to organize its defenses. The English countryside, once peaceful and serene, now buzzed with military activity as soldiers prepared for the inevitable battles ahead. King Alfred the Great of Wessex, a visionary leader, understood the existential threat posed by the Vikings. He knew that traditional methods of defense would not suffice against such a formidable and relentless enemy. Alfred's strategic mind went to work, devising plans that would not only defend his kingdom, but also strike fear into the hearts of the invaders. He realized that to defeat the Vikings, he needed to adapt their tactics. This meant building a strong navy to counter the Viking longships that terrorized the coasts. Alfred commissioned the construction of a fleet of ships designed to be faster and more maneuverable than those of the Vikings. He also understood the importance of training his men in the Viking way of war, ensuring they could match their enemies in both skill and ferocity. Alfred's efforts were met with mixed success. While his new strategies and naval forces did manage to score some victories, the cost was high and the toll on his soldiers was immense. The battlefield, often littered with the fallen, was a stark reminder of the brutal reality of war. Alfred, ever the concerned leader, constantly sought ways to improve his tactics and bolster the morale of his weary troops. Despite the challenges, Alfred's determination began to pay off. He scored several significant victories, pushing back against the Viking advance and reclaiming lost territories. These victories were celebrated with great fervor as they provided a glimmer of hope in an otherwise dark and uncertain time. But the Vikings, relentless and adaptable, always seemed to find a way to return. Their raids continued, each one more cunning and brutal than the last. The Vikings regrouped quickly after each defeat, learning from their mistakes and planning their next moves with meticulous precision. The struggle between the English and the Vikings became a bloody stalemate, a clash of civilizations that would shape the destiny of England. The battles were fierce and unyielding, with neither side willing to concede. This prolonged conflict forged a new era in English history, one defined by resilience, adaptation, and the unbreakable will to defend their homeland against all odds. Section 6. A King's Ransom. Ragnar's ambition ultimately proved to be his undoing. Captured by King Aella of Northumbria, a rival he had defeated in battle, Ragnar met a gruesome end. Legend has it that he was thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. His death, however, did not end the Viking threat. It ignited a firestorm of vengeance. Ragnar's sons, Ivar the Boneless, Bjorn Ironside, and others, united under a banner of revenge. They launched a massive invasion of England, the Great Heathen Army, determined to avenge their father and conquer the land. Their campaign was a testament to Ragnar's legacy, the fear and respect he commanded even in death. Section 7. Legacy of the Northmen. The Viking raids and invasions of England had a profound impact on the course of history. They led to the unification of England under the House of Wessex, a dynasty that traced its lineage back to Alfred the Great. The Vikings brought with them their culture, their language, and their laws, leaving an indelible mark on English society. Their presence spurred the development of English naval power and military strategy. The constant threat of Viking raids forced the English to become more unified, to develop a stronger sense of national identity. The legacy of the Vikings lives on in England, in its place names, its language, and its history. Section 8. The Fact Grid awaits. Are you fascinated by the Vikings? Do you want to delve deeper into their world, their culture, and their impact on history? Then you need to check out the Fact Grid. This incredible channel is your gateway to a world of knowledge, exploring history, science, and culture in an engaging and informative way. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to the Fact Grid and embark on your own journey of discovery. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends if you enjoyed learning about the Vikings. Section 9, Echoes in the Mist. The Vikings, those fierce warriors from the north, left an indelible mark on England. Their raids, their conquests, and their culture shaped the destiny of a nation.